Um, Literally, this is real time. Um, your life is your content. Uh, and what's happening is that I was having a really interesting conversation with a business soulmate, as I would call him. And we decided that, part of the challenge when you are doing stuff as opposed to you are just talking about it is that you it's hard to stop executing to be then trying to create content. And so we decided, why don't we just go live on YouTube and talk about this concept of enterprise value? So there's a message. One moment. I'm calling him. This is real time. I'm literally at breakfast, by the way. Hey, does it work? What happens when you clicked on that link? Okay, well, I think there's a new feature. Is there a way? Well, it's not a way to. So when you see that link, um, and you try to click on it, what does it say? Okay, but I'm saying, did you use your phone or did you do the laptop? Okay. No, there's something has changed. Are you sure? Like, have you done this like in the last month? Because I'm on a video. Okay, well, you know what? Let's just do this actually, because this is still content, right? So the whole point is that, yeah, like this is real startup. So you're Mr. L on screen. Let me just pull you on. Can you hear me? Hello. Okay, cool. So I mean, I'll first of all, what this is a live stream, and there are two ways of doing live streams. The whole purpose of actually doing this, like super raw, is to show people that you shouldn't overthink it, right? If you have been in business, if you've been in business for a while, every day that you're actually doing things, you are creating valuable content. So the premise for this call is that we both started the day super pumped, and I was just sharing a link with you to Reginald Lewis, who many regard as the first. Well, he was the first African American to build $1 billion company, and literally he turned $1 million in invested capital into $90 million by buying a really boring business. It was like a sewing um, a sewing pattern company, right? I think it was McCall. Then we started talking about um, other business models that are more startup, all right? PODs is raging on Amazon right now, and so for me, I just think if we could just maybe have a quick chat over the next 5 or 10 minutes about what has been big on my mind, and you and I have been talking about it for the past 2 weeks, which is like there are two forms of entrepreneurship, right? There's startup entrepreneurship, where you're literally starting from scratch, like zero customers, zero brand, zero list, zero data, which is really important, right? And then you have acquisition entrepreneurship, where you're buying into a business that already has revenue, already has profits, already has a brand equity, already has data. Now, to be fair, it already has problems too, right? Because at least if you start from zero with a startup, you're not buying somebody else's problems, but it's like you either build a house from scratch or you buy a home, and those are two different models. So um, we both spend time in Europe. We both spend time in the States, and I'd just be here curious to start our chat off by asking you: do you think the acquisition model is as known in Europe as it is in America, and what are your thoughts about it?
Well, I see acquisition model is something very, very, very unique in what it is. Obviously, many people talk about it because I think in a way, um, he's only talked about in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't know what actually get. But I think, well, to tell you, I could say something like this. There was, am I allowed to say brands here? Hello.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, am I allowed to say brands here?
Yeah, why not?
It's oh, I wish I my age here. There was a company
Nice. Dalton's Weekly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
marketing like that, blah blah blah. Saying people selling actually tapes. Yeah, to really answer your question, that was something a lot of people were going to and the buy and sell businesses, buy and sell timeshares, well, well, you could actually go out and buy a business in the box and start a business right there and then. Oh, yeah, opportunities. I think it's
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. Like what you said is so true. Just for the sake of volume, like why quote unquote waste time, like starting from scratch when you can start with some runway. I think the biggest misperception is people feel that entrepreneurship is about starting from scratch, right? So like that whole grind culture. And that's the first thing. The second thing is they don't realize that there's a way to build something unique on top of something that has some foundation, right? So this is something I've been thinking about lately. Let's say you want to start an e-commerce coffee brand, right? And you buy a chain of cafes that have been around for, let's say, a brand, a chain of six high-end cafes that's been around for a while. Now that franchise has years of purchasing, customer purchasing data, right? It already has a list of people who have visited its establishment. Obviously, it always has revenue, and it has a brand. Who do you think is going to be ahead of the game? Somebody who is launching their e-commerce brand to their pre-existing customers who have visited the cafe, or from scratch, right? So the whole idea, and also who's more likely to get funding to launch their e-commerce coffee brand, right? Somebody that owns a chain of cafes with a pre-existing customer base and pre-existing customer data that you can use to run, narrow AI, machine learning, algorithms, etc. So I think there's this whole idea that even if you acquire a company or acquire a business, you can't build something new on top of that. And I think that's erroneous. And I just think that only people at certain levels that you and I know about are thinking acquisition. There's a certain car company run by a guy. I'm not even going to give him more, an electric vehicle company. I'm not giving him more visibility. Like he actually bought that company. He didn't start it from scratch, right? Like if you dig into almost every multi billion dollar business that has like a tenth of a trillion enterprise value, like they stopped building stuff from scratch probably $1 billion into revenue. Like they went from starting from scratch to just looking for smaller companies to suck up and to scale. So I just think that that's something that, let's say, smaller entrepreneurs should look into. But the thing is, we don't have access to that mindset. Number one, number two, we think, oh, we don't have the capital to forget about it. And then number three, like, what do you think the other things that make people scared about going into acquisition, entrepreneurship versus traditional bootstrap or startup businesses?
Because this alone, you mentioned why is that you said capital.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word why. That, I'm thinking, I don't have them. And
Mm-hmm.
you tend to send great friends who've been connected. Why? Now, if
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Business is a numbers game. Yeah. Wait, let's say that. Let me say that again. Let me hear you say that again, for the dummies in the back. If you don't have any customers, you don't have any business, right? Not if you don't have a logo, you don't have a business. Not if you don't have an attractive website. If you don't have what, any customers, you don't have a business,
exactly
right?
anybody to buy from
Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Acquisition. Mm-hmm. 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 Exactly. Yes, that's what you said is so true. Like a good acquisition, your customers don't necessarily need to know that you that's changed hands. Let's talk facts. You know how many products we use on a daily basis, and the companies have been changed hands like maybe 5 times in the past 10 years, right? I'm talking about, I love the exercise when you look all around a physical space and you say to yourself, like, everything in this business, right? I'm touching a table. Okay, there's a company that manufactures that. I'm looking at windows. There's a company that manufactures that. Okay, I'm looking at a painting. Well, chances are the frame company is different from the person who actually drew the company. I'm looking at we call it heating ducts. A company created that, right? So these we could be coming to this same. I'm at a hotel now. Like I've been here, multiple times. Like let's say over the past 5 years, I visited this establishment a half dozen times. Like this company could have, if the whole idea is to keep the service consistent, if it's good, and the consumer could care less. That's another thing too. Like if the quality of the output of a business stays the same, the consumers really don't care too much. And in fact, if you do it right, especially let's say if it's a retail business, you keep the employees that are customer facing in their jobs. That's the whole idea, right? You don't want to buy a company and then all the employees, unless they're bad, leave. Like ideally, you want to keep the employees there. So what you said about like businesses around us not knowing that there's a market to buy and sell companies, just like there's a market to buy and sell commodities, or there's some people know about the stock market and the bond market, but in reality, there's actual markets to buy and sell whole companies. And it's just a level of entrepreneurship that's the small guy, small girl haven't really known about. But just like you see a house and you're thinking, I don't have money to buy that house, we're already trained these days to think, okay, if I want to buy a home, I need a deposit and I need a mortgage. Well, there's things called the equivalent of business mortgages. Let me say that again, like a business mortgage, right? there are places where you can go and you have a certain amount of money to invest as a down payment to buy a small company or a medium company slash business. And then you go and get a quote unquote business mortgage, right? And just like you buy a home and you start paying off first the interest, then the principal. Well, you buy a business and you start off paying the interest and then um, the capital. The difference between buying a business and buying a home is like forced appreciation, right? Like if you can grow the size of a business, it's hard for you to grow how much a house is worth. So if you do it right, you buy a business that, let's say, it was making. I'm gonna use simple math, like for people to wrap their hands around. Let's say you bought a business that was making um, $500,000 a year in profit, right? And then I've done the math to say to myself, how do I like double in 3 years the value of a business? It's like saying, how do you double the value of your house in, to use the analogy, in 3 years, right? So you buy it at it's generating $500,000 a year. I mean, a year in profit, and you grow it by 26% a year. There's a rule that we both have heard of called the rule of 72, right? Which is that you divide the number 72 by a growth rate, and that tells you how long it takes to double a number. Again, the rule of 72. So if you divide 72 by 26, you get approximately three. And that basically shows you that, like, in 3 years, you could actually double the value of a business. Now, here's the thing: if you're starting from zero, right? Zero doubled is zero. you know so exactly. So that's why I just feel that we actually could be adding a lot of value to the marketplace, especially in traditionally underrepresented communities, by telling people that this is a model that's accessible to them, but they're going to have to tune out 90% of what they hear, and they're going to have to think differently about debt. Most of us think debt is bad because we think of consumer debt, but the wealthiest people in the world use debt in a good way. What did you call the other day? Like other people's capital, right? Or other people's money, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I like what you're saying here. I going back to your original question. Hey, well, this particular type of business transaction
Mm-hmm.
is not taught to you in your local high school.
Nope, it's not taught in high school or university.
Well, there you go. I was just going to this point. Because me and you went to Harvard one day
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for a check. But like, you would think somebody who knows what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ah, so that's what you said. That's what keeps people away. It sounds complicated. Mm-hmm. 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 Business guy. That's funny. Yeah, that's so true. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I just think that it's, I think maybe using analogies can help people wrap their head around. And is, maybe 100 years ago when people were thinking about buying a house, like they were thinking, okay, like banks were giving out to the average person loans, right? So they're like, if I want a house that's $10,000, I got to save 10,000. Well, it's easy for people to wrap their head around buying a home that that might be worth 10 times what their annual income is, right? So let's say somebody's making 50,000 US dollars or 50,000 euros or 50,000 British pounds a year, and they want to buy a home that's 500,000, right? They can wrap their head around the fact that, well, I might have to come up with a down payment of, 5% and their loans for first time home buyers, right? So I come up with a loan of 5 to 10%, and then I get a mortgage on the rest, right? So they can wrap their head around it. So it's gone from them trying to buy something that is 10 times, that's basically 10 years of income, to 1 year or a half a year income. Well, the same thing goes with a quote unquote what we're calling a business mortgage, right? Which is that you when you have your ducks in a row, are looking to acquire a business with the help of good debt, right? Taking out a quote unquote business mortgage, and then you come with a percentage of what the company is worth, right? So you, as a business that you want to buy for $5 million. Well, imagine you are sitting back at home and you're like, okay, I want to build this $5 million business. Okay, I'm starting from $0 in revenue. So the length of 0 to 5 million is a factor of 5 million, right? So you're starting at zero, or let's just say one. Well, first of all, it takes a lot of people even get to their first dollar, right? But they're starting from zero, then they're going to one, right? Which is a big difference between zero and one. And then going from 1 to 5 million, right? Now imagine if you bought a business um, at 1 million, right? And then you want to take it to 5 million. Like that's a factor of five. 1 million to 5 million is five. $1 to 5 million is 5 million, right? So it's like a difference in 4,999 something like that. Distance that you have to travel is real, right? It's not theoretical. So I just think that a lot of people, and then the other thing is that you will make mistakes buying or acquiring a company, right? But you're going to make a mistakes starting from scratch. At least a business that's been around has calluses on it, right? Like a business that's been around can weather the storm of your mistakes. It's easier for a business that's been, the equivalent is like you're dealing with an adult versus an infant. Like if you accidentally drop an adult, okay, they might live, but if you drop your infant, like that's the end of them. So I love, just to kind of wrap this up. Thank you for just being available for this a morning chat. Uh, I want to wrap up and say that the reason why we decided to do this is that we have conversations like this on a regular basis that don't really benefit anybody outside of us. And most business owners that are doing versus talking about it, they're having these conversations, these internet water cooler conversations, but they're not really documenting it. So the whole vision for us is that like this is something we do literally over like morning coffee, so to speak. And like the whole idea is that sitting down and say, okay, we're going to stop what we're doing, stop trying to hire people, stop talking to our suppliers, and put up the cameras, and then create some fancy YouTube videos. It's going to take a while, but just recording these conversations, what I call hashtag YLIC, your life is content, can be a easy, low friction way for us to share the knowledge that we've built up collectively. I don't want to age ourselves, but I mean, collectively, we have multiple decades of experience, not just with startups, but increasingly with looking at acquisition entrepreneurship. And yeah, I think people can benefit from this. So thanks. I have to think of your code name, Big L, Mr. L. I like to call you Mr. L. Mr. L. Yeah, Mr. L. Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. All right, bro. Until next time.
Bad things taking it.
Bye bye. So that's basically an example of what a day looks like for mine. The whole idea is that you, if you play your cards right, you're going to build up a network of friends that you have these internet water cooler chats with, and it's just straight knowledge. It's IP, and the whole idea is that you want to be able to share it, oftentimes, but you are just in the midst of doing things, and so you don't have time to like just go from one workflow, which is doing whatever you're doing, building the business, to creating content. That's the whole a message that I think can be picked up, that the workflow of building a business, operations, hiring, product or service development is different from the workflow of creating content. So if you could figure out think about a Venn diagram, if you could figure out a way to marry the two, where it's more documentarian style, where you're just doing what you're doing and then capturing it, I think this is really a model that is going to be useful for busy founders, investors who want to share their message and have people see behind closed doors what's happening, but they don't want to sacrifice the execution. All right, this is Shola. Take care and take action.